Welcome back to CompSci, and this video is going to go through option C.2. So again, we're within web science, that's all of option C, and C.2 is talking about searching the web.
So go search the web. I mean, best thing to do right now. Just a bunch of basic terms. So searching the web, a search engine. You should already know Google, Yahoo, Bing. There's also one called DuckDuckGo. But there's a whole bunch of search engines, and I put a link onto the OYO form there, searching your own search engines, different ones, but then some happened to got blocked, so I took it down. But anyway, just go find different search engines. If you're used to using Google, then continue using Google, but there are others. A web crawler, also kind of a search engine, and we were just kind of discussing the difference between a search engine and a web crawler, and there really isn't much. I mean, if you made your own web crawler, you may not get fancy results like Google gets you. It may not look as nice as Google does. You probably just get a list back in some kind of, well, however you arrange it, maybe some kind of database. But search engines like Google and Yahoo give you visual results that you can actually just link to your results, basically.
We also have meta tags, which give that information that search engines and web crawlers are then looking through to figure out, well, what is this website about? What does this website have? And should that be linked to this search or not? And as well as hyperlinks, which you should understand hyperlinks already, how you can link from one page to another, or reference different pages.
Yeah, so most search engines and web crawlers don't search pretty much throughout the entire page. There may be some that do, but that would take a really long time. So most search engines, the ones that are really fast, will just search through the meta tags. That way you'll put some keywords in your meta tag, and that will help your results on Google or wherever else.
So you can evaluate different search engines, and as we said, different ones are good for different things and might be better for one person, and other people like other search engines. But some of the different things that you want to evaluate is how long it takes for it to return your results, how many results you're actually getting, and the actual quality of those results. You don't want it to return a ton of results really quickly, but they have absolutely nothing to do with what you searched for. That would not make a good search engine.
Yeah, and then the other thing we talked about in class is, well, how do you get your website to be the top of the list of Google's returns? Well, what Google's doing now is you can just pay them, so you'd be a sponsored link. But are you really the best website for that thing? I don't really know. So one of the examples in the questions is about apple pies. We'll talk a little bit later on about how you could kind of cheat to get to the top of the list, or what you could do is just pay. But what if you were just a company located on Long Island and you only sold to people in New York or specifically on Long Island, and you paid Google to be the #1 search result for apple pies, and someone from California was looking for apple pies? Well, what do you do then? You're not really the best for their specific location. So the quality of your search engine kind of just depends on what it is you're looking for and how you personally feel about getting a sponsored ad to be your first result.
You might see sometimes when you search things on Google, they do give you some of those sponsored ones in a little separate section, but they come up before your actual search results. So you do also have to be careful as a consumer of the web to see that those are sponsored and not actually 100% matching your searches, just related, and then you really have your search results after that.
Yeah, it depends on how specific your search is. For example, just the other day I searched Google for Smithtown Chevy because I wanted a number for the dealership, and a sponsored link came up of Smithtown Chevy because they paid Google. But that was because I was being specific. What if I just wrote Chevy dealers? Well, some other sponsored event, dealership might come up first, where I was really looking for Smithtown Chevy. So how does a web crawler work? Well, you can basically read, and I also put up a link on instructions how to make your own if you care to do so. Even if you don't actually make the web crawler, just looking through the instructions to figure out how it does it will give you an idea of how a web crawler works. Now this specific one, this doesn't have to be the way every single web crawler works. This is just basic instructions on a lot of web crawlers. It does say download the HTML content. Well, maybe some web crawlers don't. I don't know. Maybe they all do. it's just kind of a specific thing, a specific set of tasks here that any web crawler could do. Do you have to download all the HTML content? I don't really think so. I think you could just search through the meta tags.
So then we have parallel web crawling, which is a way to make your web crawling go faster. So you're doing multiple web crawling on different pages at the same time, and that's what we mean by parallel.
There should be in parentheses here. But basically you would have multiple computers running through the internet all at the same time. That's why it says parallel computing. So you can have a bunch of different computers web crawling or searching through the entire internet at the same time. Now remember, Google does it really fast because it's searching through just the meta tags, where a web crawler, if you actually built one to download all the HTML content, like it said, that's going to take you a really long time because the web or the internet is really large and it's getting larger every, I don't know, day, second, whatever.
So there's some questions for you to consider, and we were having this conversation earlier too, of how often should you crawl the entire internet? How many copies of the internet should you keep? It's hard because nowadays when you do have Google, it's a question of what's the purpose of you having the entire internet on your computer when you can just search through Google. But there might be some purposes. So those are things that you should think about. Is there a situation where you might need to crawl the entire internet? Would you keep a copy of the entire internet? What would that be useful for? And how often should you do that? Because
How much
as we
storage
said,
would you need?
well, how much storage would you need? Absolutely. But as he said, it's kind of changing a little bit every second. So if you have a full copy of the internet in a week, that's completely outdated. So what are the purposes of that? What are the advantages of that? Is something that you guys should all consider.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different reasons why you could do that. Start thinking of your own reasons. Why would you want to crawl the entire internet? Maybe Google's search engine results are not as good as you want them to be specifically for your topic that you're searching. That way you make your own web crawler and you search the entire internet for everything that you're looking for. Like every type of pie in the world. I don't know. But those are just specific ideas that you can come up with.
These are some of the ways that web crawlers can index all of your information so that it's all organized from the web pages. They can use the meta keywords, as we said. They can just search the content of the page without going into the HTML, but just the actual words on a web page. And also the page rank, which is how many other sites are linking to that page. That's another way that they can index it.
That's an algorithm that's actually explained in one of the Kid Oyo lessons there. Okay, so again, basic search algorithm. How do you actually give a page rank? How do you figure out, okay, what page should be listed on top of another in your search engine results? Like Google, how do they say, well, this dealership, Chevy dealership, should be above that Chevy dealership? Well, that depends on your algorithm. So again, you basically search through the internet, depending on how it is that you do that, but you search through the internet, you save some meta keywords, you save the content and popular words on the page, and then when you need to find something, you get back basically a list of, like, however you arranged it. What's more important to you? Maybe Google says page links or page ranks are higher than, I don't know, meta keywords. Because there's a way to cheat with meta keywords, which we'll talk about later.
And that's our problem right here, even just in general, not just meta keywords, but general keywords on the actual page of your site. There's nothing stopping you from just putting all of those keywords in there so people go to your site, but there's no real content down there. There might be a website that just says Smithtown Chevy over and over and over and over and over again, just to distract from the actual websites that someone would be looking for.
So you got to think about it in two different ways. You think about it as a web developer, which you kind of are. You made some of your own websites. How do you get your page top of Google search results? Some of these things might give you some ideas. But then also think of it as the person who's making the search engine. How do you filter out the good links and the bad links? That's your algorithm here.
This is the PageRank algorithm. So again, you're starting by searching through everything, saving all of the content, indexing their popular words on there, identifying any links that are there, and once you're indexing all of those links, that's what's going to increase the page rank. So when they say, okay, well, this other site was linking it, that's going to increase their page rank, and they keep going through that and searching for it as they're crawling through the internet.
And down here, your problem is, what if you, as a website developer, just created a whole bunch of websites that link to one page? Well, that one page that you're linking to now has a higher page rank in Google search engine, and you'll get that page all up to the top. What if that page is a malicious site where you're stealing people's identification, or you're stealing somebody's credit card, or whatever it is? Okay, you don't want that as the Google search engine operator. You don't want that to be actually the top of your page rank.
All right, so then separately a little bit, we have two different types of the web that we have to talk about. We have to talk about shallow web and deep web. The shallow web is the standard web that you search where there's the content that's open to the entire public. Anyone can access it, and it's typically static content, so it's not really live updating and changing often.
The deep web then is stuff that you can't kind of access as the general public. I mean, you might have some access to some deep web things, like for example, if you search for, let's say, coding platforms, you'll find a whole bunch of different ones, and maybe Kidoyo will come up in that search engine. But it'll just be like their homepage. You can't search through the projects that you've done from Google because that's in deep web. How do you get to that? Well, that's private, so you would need some kind of access code to get in there. Let's talk about a doctor's website. Well, a doctor has his website, his homepage with his address and everything else, and it says, this is the stuff that I do. But what if he also had access to client information? Well, that would be a part of the deep web where you would need some kind of login to get in there. You can't search that stuff through Google. Search engine optimization. Remember, we've got two different types of, we can read through here and figure out that stuff, but two different types of search engine optimization. You have white hat and you have black hat. White hat is all the stuff that good website developers will follow to trying to get their page ranks and everything else up higher in search engines, where black hat is all the kind of, I don't want to call it like bad, but it's not really the right way you should be doing things. For example, one of the examples of black hat search engine optimization is keyword stuffing. Just write the same word a million times on your website, and when someone searches that word, you come up. But
that's what I was saying before. If they just wrote Smithtown Chevy, Smithtown Chevy, Smithtown Chevy over and over and over again on an entire website, and that was the only things on the website.
Right.
That would be black hat search engine optimization.
Yeah, and even though it says black hats are the bad guys, I don't really feel comfortable calling them bad guys. It just depends on what it is that they're doing on that website. If they're doing that in order to be malicious, spread viruses, or steal people's information, then yes, I would say they're bad guys. But if they're just doing that to cheaply get up to the top of the search engine results, I don't really necessarily think you're a bad guy.
And then lastly, we have search engine design. So this is what your search engine is actually looking like, and how it's going to fully run for users to interface with it. So again, there's been people who are able to game search results. Results are not necessarily tailored to the user. Think about it now. If you have searched something before, and then you go back and search something similar, your previous search results are going to show up as well, and they're going to probably be closer to the top if you clicked on a link than they were before. Google's remembering all of that information, and I know some people are okay with that, some people aren't. That's a whole other conversation. But Google's remembering everything that you're doing, and they're using that to then advertise to you and make sure that the search results are things that are going to be best for you.
Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's
right.
not.
So that wasn't a thing on our older search engines, but they've increased those algorithms. They've figured out how to do that more and more, and now those results really are tailored to the user.
And what assumptions does a typical search engine make now? What factors influence search today? I don't really know what exactly you're looking for, but basically, what searches are more popular now than they were, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And that also comes up kind of in the news too. You'll see after all the stuff that happened in Florida, you see that people are now talking about what people are searching for, and they think that that leads to a general trend in the whole idea of what's going on in politics.
So these are your notes on option C.2. There's even more detailed notes on every single piece of it on OYO class, and you should be going through those already. The questions are also posted. Questions are due on Wednesday. if you have them with you when you come into class on Wednesday, we will be sitting down with that group of students and going through those answers and making sure that you understand how many points you would get for the answer that you wrote and why you would lose points or why you would get points for that, so that you are fully prepared for your quiz, which is on Thursday.
Yeah, if you don't hand in your questions beforehand, I don't have time to, or we don't have time to look at them and tell you how well or how poorly you did on them. So,
Any questions? Make sure you ask. Otherwise, questions due Wednesday and quiz on Thursday.
have a great night.